Hello and welcome back to another LeagueVerse video. Today we are reacting to a new Necro video which is called League is Changing Its Focus After 10 Years. So League of Legends recently announced that they're gonna focus less on creating new champs and focus more on creating new gameplay experiences. And let's see what Necro has to say for it. So let's get straight into the video. Don't forget to click that subscribe button for 10 years of good luck. And if you don't, you're just gonna be an unlucky person.
Since the dawn of time, the retention of the League of Legends player base relied on two things.
What is it?
New champions and new skins.
Sorry.
On the skin side, you might have noticed that Riot is still going very strong.
Yes.
Releasing about 8 new skins every patch. In fact, it's kind of becoming a meme now. Every League of Legends event is a simple promotion for skins. But very quickly, we don't really have the opportunities anymore, but can we talk about the newest skins? Like, yeah, it's nice that they are vaguely themed after Dark Souls and Elden Ring. Can we talk about Cho'Gath?
Oh my god, I haven't seen this. When did this? What?
This has to be one of the most creative skins in the entirety of
I
the game.
love these. I haven't seen them.
Anyway, besides skins, when it comes to the new champions, they are simply not as exciting as they used to be. And Riot realized this. Which is why, very recently, we got the news that Riot will be changing things seemingly in a drastic way.
Yes,
and honestly,
very good for us.
it feels like a change for the better. So,
I agree.
Let's talk about it.
I like his shirt. I really like his shirt. That's really nice.
In our last video, Riot gave us a pretty decent update as to what's happening with League next. They are investing more into ASUs, with the next two being Lee Sin and Teemo.
And that's how it's supposed to be.
Everyone is happy about that one.
Yeah.
They are adjusting champion pricing. They have iterations on ARAM, including the ARAM Clash Return. When it comes to lore, we still got nothing. After much begging and crying from the PC community, some Wild Rift exclusive skins will be ported over. And also, League's source code was stolen. But most importantly, they confirmed that some of the people who were previously working on new champions
are now working
in
the
moved onto
game mode. Yeah.
And this is something a lot of people glanced over, even though this seems to be a big deal.
No, this is actually very important, because then, okay, yes, less champions are gonna come out, but who's gonna use a new champion for how long? Well, you're gonna use a new champion. One person every match uses a new champion. You know, you don't use it as much. It's not, I might not like the new champion, but if there's a new game mode coming out, it's the whole team playing it. So 10 people, imagine, or dependent on the game mode.
What this change really means. As I mentioned,
just a new experience for everyone.
In the past, League was heavily driven by new champions.
Yep.
And back then, it worked. Especially back when you had like 60 champions.
Exactly.
Statistically, under the assumption that every champion was played at the same rate, a new champion would affect at least one of every 6 games.
Ari and Kat are looking kind of thick here, huh?
And even then, a new champion doesn't affect the game that much.
Exactly.
Anyway, the point is, a new champion felt a lot more significant when the champion roster was smaller. Partially, it was because of the story these champions brought to the table. And I'm not talking about the raw lore that came with them. When we only had 60 champions, and I'm using the word only loosely here, people simply cared more because there was less champions to keep track of. So when a new champion was released, people still had a bit of brain capacity to learn about the new champion's character. Fast forward to today, and the number of champions almost tripled. This means that over the years, the champion pool started getting watered
Brand's old splash art looks clapped,
down
bro.
more and more. With every champion, it was another unique character. Which is good from the story's perspective. But from the perspective of the casual audience, they would eventually get to a point where they just wouldn't care anymore. And the exact same thing is happening on the gameplay side. At the beginning, a new champion usually brought new tools to the table. Like, remember when Xerath was released? He became one of the first artillery mages in the entire game. He pretty much introduced a whole new type of a champion. So when he was released, he felt really impactful. And later, as more and more champions were released, more and more of these gameplay holes were filled up. And League's overall roster became fleshed out. Which slowly started becoming a problem. Because when you already have a fleshed out, diverse pool of playable champions, adding in a new champion on top of that does nothing. Because at that point, the chances are the champion has the same tools as...
This is what's happening now, because the new champions that are coming out is basically every ability they have is basically a remodeled or rekitted ability of another champion. So there's no new unique abilities, and they're not taking their time creating the champion. So what they do is they're supposed to take their time creating the champion. They have a team dedicated for that, create less champions but quality champions, and focus on adding a new experience to the game with new game modes.
Multiple other champions already.
Like Clash. The last Clash I played was in December, and we're in Feb now. So like, I want to play Clash again, but I don't want to wait like 50 years, you know. ARAM Clash, I'm talking about ARAM Clash, by the way. That was so much fun.
And especially now that we have 162 champions, what new can you realistically give us? Which means that over time, people became less and less interested in new champions.
Exactly.
It didn't happen in a burst. It's not like people became sick of new champions overnight. It was a slow decline. And hilariously enough, I know what it looks like. But if you have a look at the past champion releases, the breaking point was Seraphine. Now, I'm not saying that Seraphine was the source of all evil, but it is a pretty funny coincidence. Before her, we got champions like Set, Aphelios, and Yone. Champions who definitely got some hate for not being balanced, but that's not what we're talking about now. For the most part, these champions became popular for their gameplay and their aesthetics. After them, we got Samira, who was definitely frustrating, and I believe she's the one who cracked the community a little bit. But then we got Seraphine, where a lot of people argued that she was a mesh of all sorts of other champions.
Yep.
And people didn't really like her character. Then, I don't know what Riot did, but people keep telling me that they didn't release anyone. Which was followed by Viego, a very popular champion. Gwen, another one who angered the community with her immunities. Akshan with the revives, who followed in the exact same steps. Vex was the last one who seemed like a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, but then the tunnel dimmed again, and it dimmed all the way to the present days. And so, over the years, champions became less and less of a driving force.
Bro, Casante's aesthetic, I love the aesthetic. I love how he holds these two pillars and his outfit in general. His whole aesthetic is like, this is the only reason why I'd ever consider playing him, is his aesthetic.
Legends. And as people started caring about new champions less and less, it drove forward the importance of skins. This is why, about 3 years ago, Riot went through a little bit of a shift with new champions. Instead of the champions being the big focus of a big patch, beginning with the Spirit Blossom event, Riot started bundling new champion releases with the releases of new skin lines. They still separated the release to give the champions some breathing room. For example, they would release the skins first, and then 2 weeks later the champion would come out as well, but they were all still part of the same big patch.
Yep.
And apparently this shift in marketing was a bit of a success. It seems like champions released as a part of an event did get a bit of a boost, with the only recent champion who did not do this being Renata, who got a skin that was unrelated to anything. But the problem with this kind of marketing is that if the event is not good, it will drown the champion even more. And unfortunately, Star Guardians proved this. When Star Guardians 2022 released, two things happened. First of all, everyone knows that the event wasn't received well. We got a visual novel for the third time, we got recycled spellbook and, I believe, 10 new skins. And unfortunately, Neela was part of it. She got to be part of the visual novel, which, to be fair, that part was probably the most interesting, but she came a bit later, and by that point, people already got bored of the story, and they started skipping most of the
Exactly.
Also, this meant that she got a bunch of Star Guardian lore, but she also got her own canon lore on the side, which prevented most people from getting a clear picture as to what her character is like. But all of this is still part of the first problem, the fact that the event didn't really stick the landing. The second problem is that Riot released 12 skins, and since Neela was one of them, she immediately got drowned by all the new stuff.
Yeah,
and so in her case, even though she got bundled into a big event, it still didn't help with boosting excitement.
I had the skin, by the way. I got it in the chest. I'm not a big fan of it. I like her default base skin more.
That champion.
Not gonna lie.
Which, at this point, I should say, I'm not saying nobody was excited for that champion. I'm just saying, statistically, over the years, people got less and less excited for new champions. This isn't just my random opinion. Based on the feedback Riot got from the latest news, that really seems to be the case. And Riot themselves acknowledged it, which finally brings us to the big change. For the first time since the dawn of League's time, Riot is shifting their focus away from new champions, but
finally,
new skins, and towards new gameplay. As I mentioned...
Yeah, I understand if they make more skins, because that's their source of income kind of in League. Skins, battle passes, stuff like that, and it's a free game, so you can't complain about them creating a lot of skins, right? So, like, that could be, well, that could be not hate. I don't think people care about if there's more skins. Actually, some people might be excited for it. For me, it doesn't affect me positively or negatively. I'm just saying.
In the video, they confirmed that there will be less people working on new champions, and more people working on the Summoner's Rift team, as well as the game modes team. As I just explained, based on Riot's history with new champions, this absolutely makes sense. And it is reassuring to see Riot making this step. In most cases, when the player's interest in a game shifts around, if the game doesn't shift around with them, they will suffer a big player loss. To give you a great example of this, over the years, Fortnite slowly bled some of their players. Because after some players mastered the art of building, they could dominate nearly every lobby. And so, Fortnite shifted around and gave people the no-build mode, which skyrocketed the player base because they followed what their players were interested in. Despite the fact that building is what separated Fortnite from the other battle royales in the first place. And League is now facing a similar challenge. Can they shift their game around to satisfy players who are no longer satisfied by new champions? Well, the answer really is game modes. Or to be more precise, game experiences.
Yes.
As I mentioned, Riot is now shifting their focus on the gameplay of League of Legends, which means more experimentations with game modes, as well as bringing back older game modes, hopefully besides just Earth. Speaking of which, I am totally down to make a video talking about all the experimental game modes that would work in League's engine.
Yes,
like,
please,
ever since Neko's update was revealed, so many people jumped on the idea of using her new abilities for a game of prop hunt. And I genuinely believe this is a great idea.
I knew
a game mode that's actually about having fun with the gameplay and not about winning. That would be a change for League of Legends. So let me know if you'd like to talk about this topic. There is a lot more that we can put together.
Imagine prop hunt in League.
Game modes are not the only new experience that Riot is fiddling with. In case you don't know, last patch, Riot was testing something called cupcakes for heartaches. Apparently, this was a test for a new kind of meta experience, just like the visual novel, except it is not gonna be visual novel. In case you haven't heard about it, that's because this was only teased for Australia. And the entire thing was very simple. It was all in client, there were 3 missions, and you completed them by clicking at 3 things that were around the screen. It was all supposed to be you baking cookies. It didn't really look like much, but that's because that was on purpose. It was a test. Because in the background, there is a big twist. This entire thing was made in Unity. And it was a test to see if Riot can make actual minigames inside the client.
Interesting. I doubt it's gonna be.
When Arcane came out, remember?
I doubt it's gonna be that detailed, but you never know.
When we got that 3D point-and-click game that looked like it was from the 90s, but it was running in your browser. I love that one, and if Riot is trying to figure out how to make that run in the client, that's awesome. I have to say, after I started diving into the rabbit hole that Genshin is, I noticed that they have a new gameplay event like every 2 weeks. And it goes from crazy battle events, to massive puzzle minigames, to apparently prop hunting, and even fighting with beetles. And honestly, that's what League should be aiming for. hooking people with innovative gameplay, not just sprinkling some champions on an already baked cake. After
fair
all
enough.
of this news, I am now confident that Riot is actually working on something great. But the issue is that this will probably take time before they implement something, which could be pretty bad, because it seems like the community really doesn't have patience anymore. And so really what's gonna happen in the upcoming months might dictate what's gonna happen to League in the future. Thankfully, on one side, Riot Forge is always ready to save everyone. But also there is the darker side. Since it was pretty much confirmed that new champions might slow down a little bit, this also means that the lore will suffer. Because new champions always brought new stories. Now
The lore, I feel like the lore can suffer for a bit of time for new experiences, honestly.
there will be even less
Because
of
if you want to, like, just think about it. How many people really care about the lore of the game than playing it? Like, if you look at the percentage and the amount of people that really care, it's much lower than people playing the game. You get what I mean,
And
right?
you know, I'm fine with that.
Exactly.
We are already at the bottom of the barrel. What are you gonna do? Push us to hell?
Thank you, Necret, for another video. If you guys enjoyed this, subscribe and subscribe to Necret as well. He's an amazing YouTuber. I don't think he needs my 46 subscribers, but support is all I need. Don't forget to subscribe for 20 years of good luck. Drop a like and a comment. This is LeagueVerse. If you guys want a stream of me playing ranked, well, I'll try it someday. This is your host, almost. Peace.